Something a little bit lighter, viewers. Reverend Dr. J.W. Morrison, Central Coast, New South Wales, Australia. Son murders mother, dismembers her body, and eats it. The man also fed some of the mother's remains to his dog. This is going to be interesting, viewers. A 28-year-old man has been found guilty of killing his mother and desecrating her corpse. According to the BBC, Alberto Sanchez Gomez was arrested in 2019 on suspicion of murder when investigators discovered human remains placed throughout his mother's home in Madrid, Spain. Some were reportedly in plastic containers. Police had reported to Maria Soledad Gomez's home after a friend contacted authorities with concerns about the woman's safety. Gomez's legal defense reportedly argued that the defendant was impaired by a psychotic episode when he killed his mother. That's handy, isn't it? According to the report, Gomez strangled his mother after getting into an argument. Soon after, he dismembered her body and ate some of the body parts over the course of the next 2 weeks. Things were tough. He also fed some of the remains to his dog. Obviously, things were very tough. According to the Spanish news reports obtained by BBC, Gomez had violated a resisting order and had a history of violence against his mother. His conviction for the murder and desecration of a corpse carries a sentence of 15 years and 5 months. He has also been ordered to pay his brother the equivalent of $73,000. He ate his mum and fed some to his dog. Times are tough. Doesn't seem like the sort of person that would eat his mum, chop her up into 1,000 pieces, put some in a plastic container. I mean, well, if things are tough. And this is what's you're gonna see more of this, in the way in which these single mothers embrace these thugs that haven't been raised right. You can call it mental illness and all this, but they're conscious of what they're doing. It's hatred and jealousy and selfishness and wrath, envy. The mother was going to move out with the man she was about to marry, and he didn't like it. So he decided to chop her up, poison her and chop her up. We'll read the story in a minute again. Police aren't mucking around with this grub. Self-entitled, me, grub. Single mother family. Oh well, he chopped her up. I've had girlfriends where they've had to lock the doors, bedroom doors, to keep the sons out. 3 of them. Oh, How'd lunch go, mate? Disgraceful. Absolutely disgraceful. Well, he's got a full stomach. Disgraceful. And you wouldn't pick it. Cannibal killer. Son cut mum up into 1,000 pieces, then kept her hands, head and heart on her bed just before eating her. We wouldn't pick him as someone that'd eat his mum, would you? And this is what I'm saying. The hostility and the narcissistic rage that's coming out of these single mother sons. I've said all along, these people resent their mothers. They use them. The mothers worship them and wife them. And in this case, mum got chopped up and eaten. A cannibal son has been convicted of murdering and eating his mum after cutting her up into tiny pieces. He hated her. Alberto Sanchez Gomez, 28, was found guilty of strangling Maria Soledad Gomez, 68, to death, 68, in early 2019 after he dismembered her body following a row. And the row was over his mother about to marry a man and make a life for herself, the last part of her life. She's at the end of her life. He now faces more than 15 years in jail following the sentencing in Madrid, Spain. That's pretty light. I'd never let him out. The Sun previously reported that the jobless waiter told police that he had been eating her bit by bit with his pet over a period of 2 weeks. Times were tough. A lot of these people rely on their mothers for supply. They just don't find their way through life properly. The parents disable them, and then the parent will meet someone and need to get on with their life, but they've buggered it up by disabling their spawn. People think this is rare, but it's not. It's happening all the time. Detectives found parts of the mother's remains in Tupperware containers, in their fridge, and bones in drawers around the family home. An apartment near the Spanish capital's famous Las Ventas bull ring. He was obviously saving the bones for the dog. Local reports at the time said her body had been cut up into more than 1,000 tiny pieces. That's a lot of work. With her head, hands and heart found on her bed. Well, that's lovely, isn't it? All the thoughtfulness and work she put into this brat grub. During the trial, Alberto admitted to hearing hidden messages when he watched TV and voices telling him, "Kill your mum." This is happening because a lot of these people are drug induced. That's why they got nothing. However, during his sentencing on Wednesday, a jury of 6 women and 3 men dismissed Sanchez Gomez's claims he was experiencing a psychotic episode when he committed the horrific crime. Doesn't look like someone that'd chop his mum up into 1,000 pieces and eat her. Yeah, you wouldn't pick it. The state prosecutors had already demanded a 15-year, 5-month prison sentence if he was convicted of homicide and desecration of his mother's body. They also asked Sanchez Gomez to compensate an older brother with 90,000 euros or 77,000 pounds for his mum's loss, which he won't be able to do. During a last address to the court last Friday, he insisted, I'm very repentant. I thought he was going to say I'm very hungry. Sorry. I'm very repentant. I suffer anxiety from the moment I wake up. I think of my mum and I'm absolutely heartbroken. It just doesn't make sense. Was he heartbroken when he was chopping her up? Was he heartbroken when he was dismembering her and eating her with his toast and the dog? Jurors heard the convicted killer who regularly consumed... there it is! There it is! I didn't know that was coming, viewers. There it is. And you single mothers that have got your kids on alcohol and drugs and other medications, look out! Look out. This is what I've been warning you of. And as I said to you before, viewers, I've had several girlfriends that have had to lock the doors from these bastard sons. Jurors heard the convicted killer who regularly consumed drugs and alcohol had been arrested 12 times for mistreating his mum before the grisly outcome of their last rout. Why didn't she kick this little arsehole out? I just had a son just now. Car broken down. We tried to fix it, couldn't fix it. Can you give us a lift home? We had to go finish off a job. He wanted the other son's pregnant, ready to have a baby at any minute, drive him home. I said, you walk home. Walk home like anybody else would. And these entitled little bastards. I don't show any partiality. He had also breached several restraining orders in the process. These mothers, I'm telling you, they're ignorant. They're smitten with these little brats. They're enmeshed. They give their authority over to these children. The man that would have been marrying this woman, surely he must have known that she was going to get maimed or something. But the thing is, you can't intervene as an outsider. These women have made their bed and they have to lie in it. I've had, my worst one was a partner I didn't even want to go to her house. The hostility of the golden child was just too toxic, and it was delusion to boot. I never bought into it. She did, but where'd she end up? Good luck. He had also breached several restraining orders in the process. The defendant, whose cabinet maker dad died when he was 15, had been, what from, alcohol? Who knows? A lot of these children's fathers are alcoholics and drug addicts and narcissistic. He had been held on remand in prison since his arrest more than 2 years ago. The trial judge will now decide how long he should be jailed for over the course of the next few days. Doesn't look like someone that'd chop his mum up. State prosecutors, in an indictment submitted to the court ahead of the trial, accused the defendant of strangling his mum after an argument at the end of January or the beginning of February 2019. Can you see the self-entitlement? I'm just going to strangle you, you bitch. Thanks for everything you've done. Neighbours are believed to have told investigators they often heard raised voices coming from the flat and would frequently see police and paramedics there. Police then went to the flat on February 21, 2019 after the alarm was raised by a worried friend of Soledad's who told the authorities she hadn't seen her for a month. Where was the boyfriend? Apparently she was going to be married. When officers got him to open the door of the apartment, they received the response, "Yes, my mother is in here dead." And when they asked after the OAP. A prosecution indictment submitted to the court ahead of the trial said the cannibal killer used a carpenter's saw and 2 kitchen knives in an attempt to cut up and hide his mum's body. But he insisted he didn't remember any of it due to his claims that he was suffering from psychotic episode. A lot of these people will say they're suffering from depression and anxiety, but it's from their drug and alcohol use. In letters he wrote from prison, which were published in Spanish press in March, Alberto said, "I can't stop thinking about what happened. The cannibal killer chopped up Mum and ate her remains, and he kept some in lunchboxes in the fridge." He doesn't look like someone that would chop. Isn't he a lovely, lovely looking boy? He's a good boy. An alleged cannibal is on trial, accused of killing and chopping up her body, his mother, before living off her remains, which he kept in lunchboxes in the fridge. Times were tough. The silly idiots cut off the hand that feeds him. The court in Spain heard that Alberto Sanchez Gomez, 26, had frequently been violent towards his mum, Maria Sanchez, 66. She even took out a restraining order against him, yet she told friends who asked why she would always take him back, "What can I do? He is my son. Kick his ass to the curb. Like some of you single mothers ought to do, you ignorant fools." The man who has been dubbed in the local media as the cannibal of Guindalala is on trial for murdering his mum in Guindalala, neighbourhood of Spain's capital Madrid, in February 2019. You're going to see more of this. Authorities are said to have arrived at the family house after friends reported that they had seen Soledad had not seen her for several days. Gomez reportedly admitted that he had strangled his mother to death. He later is said to have admitted cutting her up and spending 15 days eating her remains whilst feeding bits he did not want to his dog. Well, that's kind of him, isn't it? He's a thoughtful boy. Officers reported that the victim's limbs were wrapped in plastic and left lying around various rooms, but other parts were in the fridge and further cooked pieces were lying in the pan. Several cops were reportedly violently sick due to the overwhelming strength, stench and shock of what they were seeing. The prosecutor is accusing Gomez of homicide and the desecration of a corpse, and he is facing 15 years and 5 months in prison. He wouldn't eat his mum. It is believed he had an argument with his mum before suffocating her, then taking her dead body into the bedroom where he began chopping it up. And he probably had sex with it as well, but they're not saying that. According to local media, the court believes the suspect is suffering from a mental illness, possibly borderline personality disorder, and was using, and was using drugs at the time, probably dope. The ABC claims that Gomez has been admitted to a psychiatric care 3 times on the encouragement of his mother, who was terrified of him. I have said this before. I've had partners where they've had to bolt the bedroom door before we go to sleep. And I've said, "Why are you doing that?" And they just wouldn't answer, as he would routinely physically attack her. Gomez was handed a restraining order for attacking her in 2018, but he is said to have violated the court order and returned to his mother's house. The defendant and police officers who found the dismembered body are due to testify on Tuesday in Madrid's provincial court. Single mothers, lock your doors. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. This is Reverend Dr. J.W. Morrison, Theologist, Gosford, Central Coast, New South Wales. Bye for now.